Welcome to Keeping It Real with Rhino Reels, episode 4. Got Louis Calvillo, founder and CEO of Peak Energy. How you doing today,
Doing well,
brother?
bro. Thanks for asking. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Looks beautiful down there in Orlando.
Yep. Yeah, it's a little cloudy today, bro. But yeah, I love living down here. Florida's definitely the spot to be, in
That's
my opinion. I know I get a lot of controversy, but I rep it hard down here, bro.
that's awesome, man. Now I saw in your story you just got a new office location down there for your company.
Yeah. So uh one of our partners we're using their warehouse. So we just got a brand new office space. We were in a tiny office space a couple months ago, but now we just upgraded to like this big warehouse. We got a bunch of chairs and we're just looking to fill it up with hundreds of people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I know for those that are watching, we're in January of 2024 right now. What are your goals this year as far as recruitment and building your team out?
Yeah, bro. Great question. So, what we're looking to do at Peak is partner up with the right people that are focused on four things: on faith, their family, their fitness, and their finance. We're looking to onboard 100 savages by this upcoming December, but I can't do it alone. So, I mean, one thing that I've learned from my mentors is you can go pretty far. You can walk fast by yourself, or you can go further with other people. So it's just like, where do you want to go? And for me, I want to leave like a really, really big impact, not only for myself and my family, but like my team as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And the 4Fs, you got to have the right people in your tribe. And I'm sure we'll talk, more about proximity and your network and who you associate yourself with. But it's so important to have the right people on your team instead of just hiring anybody with a pulse because you're going to kill your culture that way. So I can see that your culture is very important. And for those who've never heard of Peak Energy, could you tell them a little bit more about what you guys do?
Absolutely. So we're a solar marketing agency. We help homeowners lower their electric bill using solar. And the cool part about solar is that homeowners get to switch over for no money out of pocket, and they just save a bunch of money and help the planet. And our team gets paid doing so, and very handsomely. Um, so yeah, it's a little bit about what we do.
That's awesome, man. So how are the homeowners able to switch with no money out of pocket?
Yeah. So the idea is we're going to take all of the money that they would have already paid and just shift it over to the solar, where now they have an opportunity to get energy from the sun that's at a much lower rate, and that protects them against like inflation charges, blah blah blah.
Wow, that's awesome. So it's really a win-win situation. And that's what I find is always the best because the homeowner's winning, the salesperson is winning, your company's winning, and the earth is winning. And we're all trying to lower costs. We're getting away from the grid. I've heard that the grid hasn't been updated in over 75 years, like a huge update. So yeah, I appreciate all the work that you're doing down there. Um, I know that it's been a long journey to get where you're at currently. And I know that you used to work at
Oh
McDonald's.
yeah.
Could you tell a little bit about whenever you used to work at fast food? What was your mindset? Were you dreaming of running a company at that time? Was that even on your radar? Tell me a little bit about younger Lewis.
Yeah, great question, bro. Yeah, so like working at McDonald's, I was always a kid where I was growing up and I was always looking to like make an extra dollar. I grew up with a single mom. My family was a little bit dysfunctional. Like I didn't have like the normal family, like the movie, the picture perfect family. But what I learned is I got to see both sides of the spectrum. My dad was like a hustler, entrepreneur. And when my parents got divorced, my mom, she's very traditional route where you go to school, and I got to try both. I was going to UCF, um, and then I was actually seeing my dad, or I was thinking of going to UCF, and then I was seeing my dad hustle when I was a younger kid. So I needed an entry job to make some sort of money, right? So McDonald's was the only place that hired me. I got interviewed by a bunch of places, and I would sit down with them, and none of them would hire me. So McDonald's gave me a chance, and I just stayed there. I stayed there for 3 months, busting my ass. But what I learned is like the biggest thing I learned there is I never want to go back. And I learned that it's a stepping stone because like I had grief hitting me in the face. I'm like 16 years old going home smelling like a cheeseburger. Like it wasn't, you're definitely not picking up ladies smelling like cheeseburgers for sure anytime soon. And it not a good burger. So, um, when I started to realize it, I was like, dude, I need to figure out a way. How do I make income? So going back even a little bit further, when I was in 8th grade, I used to play Grand Theft Auto, and when there was hackers, I would talk to the hackers over the mic and convince them to give me free hacks that I would sell to other people in the game. And I'm in the 8th grade. So over a headset, so I'm literally selling these cheat codes that they're giving me for free, just persuading them, and then I'm selling them for actual money. And my parents were like, "Yo, how are you making this money?" And it's like, I literally don't know. I'm just talking to people on Grand Theft Auto. Um, so yeah, and then after McDonald's, I had a couple small jobs, and I never really dreamt of like being like a CEO. But one thing I would always say is I would always tell my mom and dad, I want to be in a cool car, wearing a suit and making deals over the phone. I want to be making deals over the phone. I never knew what that was until years later. I realized that was sales, and now I have my first taste of it with Soul.
Wow. That's awesome, man. That's crazy how you were able to make money online just playing video games. Not like stringing it, not trying to do brand deals, like literally just selling cheat codes that you were getting for free. And for anybody who knows, whenever you unlock the cheat codes on Grand Theft Auto, it's a whole
It's a
different
different
game.
game.
It's
It's a
a whole
different
different game.
world. I was selling the vision. I was like, you can have all the cool cars and stuff. Crazy, right?
Yeah, you gotta sell the vision, not the plane ride to get
Boom.
there.
Dropping stuff.
Stuff that I
Taylor
heard on
McCarthy on
your
it.
Instagram recently. Yeah. So working at McDonald's, and I can relate on the coming home to like food. I used to work at Panda Express.
Oh yeah.
So I came home smelling like Chinese food. Got orange chicken sauce
No,
on
but
me. I know exactly how it is, bro. Uh, and so that taught you that you didn't want to go there. And you mentioned that your dad was a hustler and an entrepreneur. What kind of business was he in? What were you seeing him doing growing up?
yeah, so my dad's the G. Like my dad grew up dumpster diving for food. So my dad was always just in that hustle. And now he owns property all over the world. Like I'll be going to Colombia next month to visit his house in Colombia, which is crazy. And his story is pretty rad. He grew up in Compton in the middle of the riot. His upbringing is very, very crazy. But I just got to see him hustle, man. And when we were younger, he would always bring me to his construction site. I'm literally probably 8 years old with a jackhammer. Kid you not. Boom, 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 boom. Going home all dirty. And my mom's like, what is going on? Like, where are you working? You know? So I just always got a taste of that grind. And luckily I got to see that from my dad.
That's awesome. So other than just being hard work, what other mindsets or important frameworks have you learned from your dad? It sounds like he's done a huge role, in your life.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things that I've learned to do, and there's a lot of things that I've learned not to do. Right. One thing that I've learned to do for sure is like not give up on your dreams. Like I've seen my dad like go through like the craziest stuff. Right. Like my parents got divorced. He moved to Florida. He was DEA. Quit that where they chased after narcos. He was doing that for like 20 years, and then after he had
Wow.
nothing. So then he had to create businesses out of thin air. Right. So typically something out of a mindset, like I would say just put your last name on your back. That's what I saw him do. I saw him put our last name on his back.
Wow. That's awesome, man. I think it's such a pivotal role. Like even if you grew up with your mom, you still had that relationship with your dad, and you were able to learn so much from him. And I think there's few things that can get taught differently than just getting out and getting your hands dirty like you did early on the construction site. And speaking of getting your hands dirty, I understand that you've done some MMA in the past. Are you still doing MMA? Could you give us a little backstory? Like, how did you get into it?
Yeah. So like I grew up always being like like I grew up like pretty skinny, and in high school like there was like these seniors that were picking on me, and like they were on the wrestling team and stuff, and I was like, dude, like I'm gonna give my butt kicked if I screw with these guys, right? So fast forward a couple years, I was just tired of being like, just tired of not being like the man I needed to be, right? So I started, I got into MMA. I walked into my first MMA gym, which is not too far from where I'm at now, and got my ass whipped. But I like just being beat down and showing up the next day. For some reason, I'd always had that in me. And then I did it for a couple of years. Um, Shout out to American Top Team in Orlando and Paul Rodriguez. That coach taught me like everything I know, and I don't know much. I did it for about 3 years. I don't do it anymore. I got into altercations after, like at clubs and stuff, and I broke my hand like pretty bad. Um, so I stopped training, but I want to go back. But yeah, I just have to find some time. I have to make some time for it for sure. But I ended up fighting for combat night in an octagon. I lost my first match, but it got voted fight of the night. Pretty sick. So yeah, I've just always loved being in that grind, bro. Just always loved being like, just like when the world beats you down, like give me more, you know? Like I'm reading a book right now called Chop Wood, Carry Water, and it says when it rains shit, they'll fertilizer. Like I feel like I've always had that mindset.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I think you should definitely get back into it. Especially as the CEO, you're working a lot, building the team. It's great to have some way to exploit the extra energy, but also give you a different way of conquering and getting beat and showing up the next day. And that translates to business 100%, but getting that physical is a completely different mind frame. And I think that's one reason why I love to lift weights. It's like it's a challenge. Like no matter how good you are, no matter how great you think you are, like you get in the gym and you have that challenge. And I see that you're, still in the gym, even if it's not boxing, still, getting some exercise in. And I think that relates, especially to knocking doors. I understand you face a ton of rejection whenever you're outdoor knocking. And how did you transition from McDonald's to starting in the solar industry?
Dude, great question. So during COVID, I was hanging out with my girlfriend and I was living at my mom's boyfriend's house, right? Like all through middle school and high school. Um, but dude, during COVID, he was threatening to kick me out of the house for seeing my girlfriend. And that's the only person I would see. So there was one day where I hung out with her. I walked upstairs to my room and he comes in. He's like, yeah, you're going to have to move out. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like 18 years old. Like just graduated high school. You know what I mean? I'm like, what do you mean? I have $0 to my name, you know? And he's like, yeah, you can sleep in the car that you just got. And I just got my Hyundai Elantra. So I was like, holy shit, dude, I have to figure out a way. How do I provide for myself? So I got an Indeed that same night and I was just trolling for sales jobs. And I was going to go into the car industry, but then I found solar, joined a small mom and pop solar company, was with a broken hand. That's when I was getting into altercations at like clubs and stuff. And I broke my hand getting into a fight. And I was at this company knocking doors in the middle of June and July in Florida, 100-degree weather with this nasty cast on, making like very, very pennies on the dollar with this small company. But then I joined a big company and I was one of the founding members of this big company. And I was able to see the ins and the outs of how it got built. And now it's one of the biggest companies, the solar marketing agencies in the country, I would say even in the world. But I got to see that. So I'm very grateful that I had that experience. Even though it didn't work out with them, still super grateful for the things that I learned.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'd imagine you were knocking with the other
Oh
hand
yeah.
if this one was
Oh yeah.
broken. Did you have to knock with your not dominant hand?
Yeah. 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 Sometimes I would give it a little bang with the car, test it out, see what they would think, maybe get a laugh out of the homeowner. But yeah, dude, it was rough. It was rough. Don't recommend breaking your hand. You need them for so much. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, you take it for granted and still it's not there. I've never had that happen, but whenever I like cut a fingertip or something, you use your fingertips for so much. Um, so knocking June 2020, people are wearing masks. The world's crazy. Are people inviting you into their house whenever you're knocking on their door? That sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, still. Um, yeah, they would invite us in, but I don't. There's a sensitive topic with the vaccine, and uh, I would just be like, I would just let them know like, hey, I have a mask, and if it was someone that was pretty like strict, like you need to be vaccinated, I would just tell them that I have 4 boosters, boostered up. That even though I have 0, but I don't know. There's a lot of controversy with that vaccine, but yeah, I mean, people were letting us in, bro. It's one thing that sales taught me for sure is that it's never the market, right? If people complain about recession, people complain about so many things, right? That there's a lack of money. There's not a lack of money. There's a lack of hustle. Like there's ways to make money. Like I learned that playing Grand Theft Auto. I made like it wasn't much. It was like $100, I think, right? But out of thin air, playing a video game, probably want to hit that. So it's like, and that was when I was 12, 13 years old. So it's like it's never the market, it's your hustle. It's never the market, it's you. You know, and I got to see that where even myself, like for me, my biggest enemy is myself. I know if I can conquer myself, like literally, there's no limit. There's no limit to what we can do as humans, which is pretty cool.
Wow. So how did you get exposed to that idea that you can accomplish whatever you're setting out to do? Like if you put in the work, if you focus on personal development, if you get the right information, like, how did that start for you and become habitual? Because I can see it's a daily practice now.
Yeah, yeah. So look, God definitely blessed me with putting me in front of the right people, like my solar career, and just having a lot of faith. Like I was able to meet, um, I was able to grow with the CEO of the last company I was with, where I became a manager, and then he introduced me to people like Taylor McCarthy, Danny Pesty. I ended up speaking for Danny Pesty's event last year. Dane Jan, like Andy Elliott, and God just kept opening up doors, but He didn't open up the doors unless I didn't hustle. If I didn't put the work in, the doors would have stayed closed. And one thing I realized is the way I was able to get connected and just have this bulletproof mindset is what you plug into, what you turn into. If you're still listening to your friends, like from high school, that have no money, that are still working at a 9 to 5 job, and you're listening to advice, you need a new group of friends. So I've always been in a pursuit of a new group of friends.
Wow. Wow, that's awesome, man. And you mentioned Danny Petley. Something that he taught me recently is, for those that know, the silver market is a little tough right now, but getting out there and putting that sweat in, putting that work in is going to sharpen your skills now. So whenever the market turns back around, your skills are going to be so much sharper. So yeah, I would agree 100%. It's not about the market; it's about your mindset. And the big thing about your mindset is the environment and who you're talking to, who you're relating to. I'm sure, as a trainer and as a executive in your company, you don't want two people that started on the same, like they both started today. They're not door knocking together. You want them to go with someone that's more experienced to manage their mindset because it's all about that
Sure,
environment.
sure. Yeah, yeah, it's everything, bro. It's like, and if you guys hadn't read the book Winning by Tim Grover, I read that book right before I got into solar when I was thinking of just dropping everything. Luckily I stumbled across that book, changed my mindset. I think that book changed my mindset. Winning by Tim Grover. Great book.
Mm. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I've read Relentless, but I've not read Winning.
Winning for me was, I read both of them. Winning for me was different. It's like, it just talks about, there's a quote from it and it says, winning will drag you through hell and it's up to you to get yourself out. So like what that means for me is like this last year, bro, I paid a lot in business tuition. And what I mean by that is I made a lot of not strategic plays that cost me almost 6 figures this last year. But the way I see it is it was my tuition. I don't go to UCF anymore paying that tuition. I pay real life tuition. I pay tuition to get experience. And I paid a lot. of tuition this year, and it makes me like shake when I think of it. But all I know is that this upcoming year, like it's gonna be it's time, you know.
Yeah, I agree. And something one of my mentors told me is you learn more from your losses than you do from your wins. And some people listening to this couldn't imagine making six figures, let alone losing six figures in a year. What are some of the biggest lessons that you learned from that experience or series of
Yeah,
experiences?
so it was definitely the biggest lesson I learned was I need to level up as a leader, but it's up to me to level up as that leader, and nobody's coming to save me. And what I would say to the people that are on that journey, right? And like, I don't know it all. I still am nowhere where I want to be, right? Like, six figures, like, it's cool, but the real cool thing is exiting for like $250 million. That's cool. Like, that that's what I want to do, right? Like, me and my team, we don't want to just get by. We want to be rich as hell and help as many people as possible doing so. Um, but yeah, I mean, and and I always and I just love going in depth about this, but uh, I would just say keep going, man. Like the biggest thing for me is if you don't put your last name on your back and just know that it's going to be really, really hard, you're going to lose. And but the most important thing is attaching yourself and looking for those that friend group, right? Like I lost a lot of people turn their back on me. Why? It's my fault. You want to take extreme accountability for everything. That's one thing I learned this year is you can cry, you can complain and moan and say, oh, it's because of this, and this. But no, bro, it always comes back to who? To me or to you. All of your problems, all of your wins, it's because of you and God. All of your problems is because of you and God giving you a lesson. So, and just seeing the big picture, right? If I listen to a lot of Hormozy, and he talks about don't worry about the micro and what you're dealing with now. You want to zoom out and focus on the macro. Like, it's not about where you are in 2, 3 years. It's where you're going to be in 10, 15 years, right? So it's like, I would say just keep chasing that journey. And that's what I learned this year is no matter what, like, dude, I was contemplating on quitting solar like last June, right? I was making not smart business decisions. I partnered up with a wrong business partner that cost me a lot of money on a blitz that we had. And moving forward, it started to create a lack of trust in my team. And I had to rebuild my team this year 3 times. 3 times. I had a big team, lost them all. Then another big team, lost them all. And then now, and it's 100% my fault. But now I'm taking all the lessons that I learned from losing those teams and not making the same mistakes, or at least try not to, because I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to keep making mistakes. But as long as I'm partnered up with the right people, I mean, there's no way we can lose.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned Hormozy and learning from him. And you talked about looking at the longer frame of time, the bigger picture. One of my favorite lessons that I've learned from Alex Hormozy is the longer time frame you think in, the bigger goals you can set out to achieve. So talking about having a huge exit. From what I understand about the solar industry, there's hundreds and hundreds of companies in the industry, but only a few of them have actually been acquired. Uh, what are some things that you're wanting to build in your company to be that type of business that will want to be acquired in the future?
Yeah. So from what I know now, and like I don't know much, right? Like I'm still learning myself, and I never want to know much, right? I always want to be a student of the game, right? I never want to think I have it all. You never want to be the biggest fish in the pond. You want to be the smallest fish in the biggest pond, because that's when you make some plays. Um, but in order to get it, I think the question is like, how would I get acquired? From what I've learned from the people I've interviewed and my mentors is people and systems. You can have the people, like how I lost my team, the last 2 teams, is I had the people both times, but I didn't have the system. And then it could be vice versa, right? When rebuilding, now I have the systems, but I need more people. So it's going to come down to people and systems.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And, something from my understanding of it was being acquired is heavily relying on systems. Like if your business doesn't run without Lewis, it's worth way less because Lewis is dependent on making the whole thing run, and it's in there every single day. And there's the quote that I love. It's like, if your business doesn't run without you, you don't own a business. You own your
Yeah,
own
yeah,
job.
you're in a job, and like right now for me, like yeah, I'm a founder of a solar marketing agency and stuff, but we're nowhere where we want to be, right? It's like I'm still in the business, which is fine, right? I love grinding, but eventually is I want to empower other people and build teams under them, right? Show people how I did what I did and how to avoid the mistakes that I made this last year.
Absolutely. And you talked a lot about your mentors and people that you've been able to learn from and what they've taught you. Um, who are some of your mentors that you've learned a lot from?
Yeah. So the one guy that gave me my like one of my first shots is Mikey Lucas. I want to give a huge shout out to him. He's in the oil business now as a solar veteran. Now he's all about financial strategy and making multiplying your money to how to earn 5 figures in a month. So that's one of my biggest mentors, Taylor McCarthy. And I would say Andy Elliott. Even though I don't talk to him as frequently uh as I'd like to, one thing he told me when I interviewed him is he looked at me dead in the eye and he said, "Lewis, you can have it all. I used to be chunky, used to get in arguments with my wife, and I wasn't living a fulfilled life." And right before I interviewed him, he's like, "You see the McLaren right there? You see my team, my army. We just bought a building, $12 million cash last week." And this is the time frame when I was talking to him. He said, "You can have it all." He's like, "You just need to believe and partner with the right people." And a huge shout out to Devin Anderson and Mo Salah. There's guys that put me on a lot of game and have just given me a clear roadmap. That's what I was, and Danny Pesci. There's so many, man. And I might have missed
Yeah.
some, but the goal is there's a quote that Ty Lopez says is good artists copy and great artists steal. And what that means is the best artists that you see, the Taylors, the Danny Pestis, all of these guys, they just steal the best information, blend it to their own, and then apply it, right? And they do that with everybody else, and then they make their own cake with their own team. And then just keep happening, the big cycle.
Wow. Yeah, a little. Someone that has that amount of mentors, it definitely tells me you're a continual learner, you're a student, you're humble. And another quote of Kyle Lopez that I love is, would you rather be rich or would you rather be right? Or would you rather be right or
Yeah,
would you
yeah.
rather be rich? Some people just have so much pride, they think they know it all. It's being able to drop your ego and learn from people who are ahead of you. It's something that me and you both
It's the
heavily
ego,
believe
bro. The
in.
ego
And
kills. It killed
you,
me. That's how I lost my team. I was not thinking of moves ahead, right? I wasn't a business strategist. I was just thinking if 1 plus 1, this is 2, right? But I wasn't thinking, okay, if I can get this solution, move him here, then there's business isn't a lineal sport, right? It's a creative art. It's like it's a it's just it's an art, bro. You can blend it. It's like Play-Doh. You can make whatever you want out of it. But the ego is what affected me the most. It still affected me. So it's about calming the fire. I'd say.
what were some tactics that you used to calm your ego and to not let it get in the way, so you can make more rational
I would
decisions?
say listening to other people and biting my tongue. Right? It's like before I wouldn't bite my tongue. And not that I was ever disrespectful. I never want to be disrespectful to someone. I'm always trying my best to be respectful, but not biting my tongue and saying things that may have rubbed people the wrong way. And just now that I'm aware, right, is that you don't want more money. You want better friends. You want more powerful friends. But how do you get the more powerful friends? Is you need to have a good, clean reputation and just control your own narrative, right? It's like, dude, you're gonna face haters. Like I have a lot of haters because of my mistakes. I have I have a lot of haters and enemies. And I have people that don't want to see me win. And shout out to Patrick McDavid on Choose Your Enemies Wisely. He talked about you want to control your own narrative because if you don't, the enemies are going to control it for you. And that's your reputation. So you always want to be active and keep moving forward. Because if you stay stagnant, that's when the enemies come and take your lunch. And that's what I've learned this year for sure.
Ah, that's awesome, man. Like, I love your mindset and everything you're saying. Your story is inspiring, and I can tell you're the type of leader in your organization that people are gonna want to come join. They're gonna want to build with you and work with you. Uh, what does it feel like being a leader at such a young age?
That's a good question. I would think it's a lot of responsibility, right? Is you have to be the first one to dive into the fire, right? Is like so one thing I do with my guys is we do a check-in, right, on how we focused on our core thing. Is prayer's a big one, and gym as soon as you get out of bed. So I have to be the guy that puts those wins first. You want to be one thing that I learned for sure from the big solar company where I learned the most, and it didn't work out, is if you don't lead from the front, nobody's going to follow you. So one thing that I do for sure is I lead from the front, but I document it. I document it. So a lot of people are leaders, except they don't document it. And it makes no sense not to document it because nobody knows that you're leading. So the leaders are willing to put themselves in front of the fire. And even though I might have looked silly posting videos, right? My best friend, I lost my closest friends from high school. Why? Is because I was so passionate about business. And they would always tell me like, hey, chill. Like, you're always talking about this solar stuff, chill. Like let's talk about something else. But I'm sitting there and I'm like only if you knew like what this solar thing's about. Because it's not just about solar, it's like you're becoming a different kind of human being. And if you can focus on your faith, which is whatever you believe in, family, fitness, and family doesn't have to be blood, right? Fitness and finance, there's no way to lose. And if you and you're going to take L's. I took L's, man. I took huge L's this last year. I created enemies with people I didn't want to create enemies with. So why? It's my fault. And all you can do is keep the train moving forward and keep becoming the man that you think you are. And who is Lewis going to look up to, right? He's going to look up to a badass who looked like a superhero, a guy that pulls up in the coolest car, a guy that respects his family and takes care of his family, and a guy that's focused on God and just moving forward, right? And just always focus on at least trying to do the right thing. And I don't always do the right thing, but I'm always at least trying to. And my intention's there, and the universe rewards intention, whether it's good or bad, whether it's reward or consequence. So it's a lot of it just comes down to what you're thinking in your mind, bro.
Yeah. Leading in the front of the pack. And a huge takeaway. I hope you guys heard that so many of you listening are leaders, but you're just not documenting it. You just might not have a place to showcase it. Luke's able to get in an industry where he can showcase his leadership abilities and get paid for it. So that's awesome, man. You talked a lot about mindset and your goals, the 4Fs. That's a huge takeaway. What drives you to be an entrepreneur?
It just feels good, man. Like being like eating, like moving towards progression feels awesome. Like you have to answer your question in a short answer. Like, how does it feel being a leader? It feels fucking awesome, bro. Like I want to be a leader of leaders. I want to create so many leaders that they lead an army, right? That's the Lewis I'm chasing. And I mean, can you repeat your question one more time?
Yes, you were talking a lot about your mindset. You talked about the 4Fs, those are super important to you. You talked about putting your name on your back and going through the hard challenges. That could fill up the question, but I'm curious, what drives you to being an entrepreneur? Like, why is it entrepreneurship and not just, okay, cool, you could get, like, with your resume, you could go get a nice job, a comfortable, secure salary. Like, why is it entrepreneurship that is driving, or what drives
It
you to
sounds
do?
cliche, but it's the game, bro. It's like I'm no different than anybody else. Like now I'm living in my cool apartment downtown where I have views of the entire city, downtown Orlando. How did I get here? I was living at my mom's house. Literally, I grew up in a bunk bed. Well, actually, if we take it a little bit further, shout out to my brother Andres, who's an absolute stud. He actually makes more money than most closers, and he at 17 years old as a setter, knocking after high school. So shout out to him. But we used to sleep in literally the same bed. Like we grew up with a single mom. I got to see that struggle, and we graduated to a bunk bed. So me and my brother, I had bottom bunk, he had top bunk. Graduated to a bunk bed, and I always wanted more, bro. And I'm gonna keep referring back to the book "Choose Your Enemies Wisely" by Patrick David, because I got what drives me is I got to find my enemies, and I realize it now. Your haters are your enemies. It could be your own family, it could be your own friends. When they tell you, stop talking about solar, you talk too much about money, you talk too much about the gym, like that's a form of an enemy. Even though you might love them, right? Some of the people I love most have said enemy things, right? So it's about finding your enemy and using that energy to drive you towards progression. And what drives me, I would say, is my enemy. Like there's a quote that Dana White has in his office, and it's by a general, and it says, "May God have mercy on my enemies, because I won't." And that's what I'm coming for. I'm any negative thing that anybody has said about you, that's what I internalize, and I use it towards progression.
Whew. Got me ready to run through a wall right now, bro. This is awesome. Wow, so many gems. Um, for people who are loving hearing your story, people who are loving listening to what you're saying, where can they find you? Where can they learn more about you? If they're interested in solar, where can they
Yeah,
connect
so
with you?
Calvillo.Lou on Instagram and Louis Calvillo on any other platform. And I'm on YouTube, TikTok, any form of social media. And yeah, I want to connect with you. I want to connect with different individuals. Shout out to you, man. You know, starting your journey, entering the solar journey as well. Like that's a huge stepping stone. And I look forward to you dominating, us dominating, and hopefully we can build an empire together in the future. And that's what we want to partner up with, right? People that are looking for a bigger purpose in life and want to get rich as hell doing so, and just look like a superhero and take care of their family and drive the coolest car. That's what we want to partner up with.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, appreciate you once again for hopping on today. We definitely kept it real and connect with Louis on Instagram. I'm gonna have his Instagram link in the description of this video.
Thanks, brother.
Appreciate you.